Alrighty. Hey everybody. Just waiting for my screen to come up. There. Mute. Should change this. That's better. I can't read that name. It starts with an M. Hi. Hi, Steph. Hi, April. Hi, Desiree. Hi, Stephanie. Thank you all for joining me. Okay, so I'm here tonight to talk live. I figured this episode would probably be better as a live because when I talk about the credentials, I think giving y'all the chance to actually ask in real time is more helpful than trying to explain it in a video by itself, because I've done videos by themselves talking about the credentials, but I still get a lot of really confused comments. Like they don't know if they should go with the CCS, which is the gold standard of medical coding credentials, because it says you've mastered inpatient coding and outpatient coding. And then there's the CPC. If you have it and you haven't been a medical coder, you're going to have the apprentice status for 2 years, but you can accelerate the removal of the apprentice status because AAPC is a business. So, and then a lot of people are just kind of confused about which one is which, because they hear it on both sides that, oh, well, people say that the CPC is the gold standard. No, not really. When you think of, it's not, I'm not saying that it's a bad credential, because it's definitely not. I would not talk about it if it was bad, right? It is good because it says, outpatient coding. The reason that I say that the CCS, the Certified Coding Specialist, is the gold standard is because that credential says someone has mastered inpatient coding and outpatient coding. That means they can sit for any medical coding job they want to. I mean, as far as like it's inpatient coding or outpatient coding, professional fee coding, they have the skills to go anywhere. So that's why I say that. And plus, it's an industry known thing that is the gold standard of medical coding credentials, because it's the mastery. Okay. But like I said, if your training has you only going one way, then we'll talk about that in a minute. But that's the reason that people need to kind of think about which credential that they want to sit for. And you don't want to set yourself up for failure either. So again, it really all depends on your training. But it's not impossible to get inpatient coding training and outpatient coding training, okay? Because you can teach yourself. There's plenty of references and resources that I give on my channel to be able to achieve those things if that's what you really want to do. Doing great, Letty. Thank you for joining me. All right, so since we got plenty of people, if you're brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue. I'm a medical coder. Tonight, we can talk about whatever you guys want, because I have about an hour with y'all. But I'm going to talk about the credentials, the CCS or the CPC-A, if you don't have any experience yet, okay? And the reason I'm talking about this on a live is so that y'all can ask questions, because I've done the episodes before where I'm talking about the different credentials and what they mean. But now I think it's just a good time to kind of have that conversation of, what is what, okay? When you're getting into medical coding, a lot of people think that, oh, I have to get a certain credential to make more money, okay? You need to take that off the table right away. Employers are looking for one of the 4 main medical coding certifications. And as a brand new medical coder with no experience, you only need one. There are schools that will push you to get credentialed with both associations, the CCS and the CPC-A. They want you to do both so that, you can have more opportunities. That's not true, because here's the thing. Employers are looking for one of these 4. Never once have I seen them say, candidate must have a CPC and a CCS. That is a really foolish thing to say, okay? And I would run in the opposite direction of any employer that ever said that, okay? They look for the CCS, the gold standard of medical coding credentials, because it says you've mastered inpatient coding and outpatient coding. This means that you know ICD-10-CM, which is your diagnosis coding, CPT, that is your outpatient procedure coding, and ICD-10-PCS, which is your inpatient procedure coding. Each one of these, the procedure codings, the CPT and the ICD-10-PCS, have different rules. And they have a completely different setup. They have a completely different thought process. CPT requires you to know about modifiers, evaluation and management, and the codes already are assembled already, okay? They have their codes already assembled. Whereas ICD-10-PCS, you have to assemble the codes. Most of the codes are not assembled because they allow you to customize the code based on the approach, based on, you know, what's going on in the surgery, what was implanted, if there wasn't anything implanted, was this a biopsy, was it not a biopsy? So there's a lot of different things you can choose from with ICD-10-PCS training, okay, and knowledge on that one. So CCS says you know both of these, okay? This means you can go anywhere. The CCA, Certified Coding Associate, this says that you have a brand new entry-level understanding of medical coding, and it is the most rigorous medical coding exam for new coders because it tests you on more unique domains than any other medical coding certification I'm going to talk about tonight. More than any other ones, okay? Because you have to know inpatient coding, you have to know outpatient coding, and you got to know about all the other things about reimbursement and, you know, all these things about HIPAA. So you have to know all of these different things and still be brand new. The CCS means you've had experience or that you are confident enough to go ahead and take this, because you don't have to have experience in order to take the CCS, okay? But you can certainly start off with the CCA if you feel like the CCS would be too daunting for you to start off with and you want to see where you are. Go ahead and start with the CCA. I had the CCA for 13 years. I would still have it today if AHIMA would let me, but they don't because the CCA is considered an entry-level medical coding certification. Once you get a medical coding certification higher than that, either the CCSP or the CCS, the CCA is what is called superseded, which means you cannot carry it anymore. So if you see somebody running around with a CCS and a CCA, CCS, CCA, that's wrong, okay? Any other combination of those, it's wrong, okay? You cannot carry a CCA and a CCSP or a CCS, okay? You have to drop it, which I had to do, okay? And then there's the CCSP, the Certified Coding Specialist Physician Based. This is AHIMA's outpatient medical coding certification. This means that you know ICD-10-CM, CPT, and HCPCS, HCPCS Level 2. The HCPCS Level 2 is basically a book that covers all of the durable medical equipment. It covers Medicare procedures for colonoscopies. They have the routine screening for colonoscopies and the high-risk colonoscopies. So they are able to break those down in that book. So there's other insurances that use different codes that are in the HCPCS book. There's for air ambulance. There's also for the ambulance codes that are in there as well. So there's a lot of things that are covered in HCPCS, but HCPCS is very easy to use, very user-friendly. A lot of schools don't really cover too much into it because they figure after you've already learned ICD-10-CM and CPT and ICD-10-PCS, you should be good to go on HCPCS. It's really not that hard. And then, of course, and these are all three with the American Health Information Management Association, and then there's AAPC, the American Academy of Professional Coders, that has their CPC. That is a Certified Professional Coder, and it has an apprentice status on it. If you have never been a medical coder, you don't have any experience in medical coding, and this says that you know ICD-10-CM, diagnosis, CPT, and HCPCS. So even if maybe you didn't want to go with AAPC and you wanted to go with AHIMA, you could certainly do that because either one of them has an outpatient medical coding certification credential. So you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to do inpatient coding if you don't want to. Some programs, when you're in it, they sort of train you on ICD-10 PCS. For some it's an afterthought. I know in what is it, Penn Foster, I think it's like at the end of their program. So if you want to sit for it, you certainly could. If you ran out of time, or if you didn't really want to, you don't have to. Again, not everybody wants to work on the inpatient side because it's so different. There's no evaluation in management coding when you're coding for inpatient, and inpatient meaning when you're coding for the facility. Because you know how when you go to the doctor and you go to the hospital rather, and you get 100 bills afterward, everybody's got their hand out, right? The lab, the doctor, and all these other specialists, and everybody's got their hand out, okay? So the facility still has to get paid. And that's what inpatient coders do when the patient is staying in the hospital. But there's also professional fee, which is the outpatient component, and that is for the physician to get paid. That's something completely different, okay? But for simplicity's sake, hopefully I haven't confused everybody. It is inpatient coding is referring to the facility getting paid, okay? And which it requires you to really have a strong grasp of sequencing and knowing like how to, sequence so that the procedures that are performed are matching up perfectly so that the facility is getting paid the most money that they possibly can, appropriately, obviously. Because if you sequence the procedures incorrectly, it could cause the facility to lose money. If you put the patient in the wrong DRG, that causes the facility to lose money. That's a difference, for example, between a $20,000 hospital payment from the insurance or a $100,000 payment from the insurance to the hospital. That's how critical it is, and that's how you really have to know and understand. But getting certified with something that says you understand inpatient coding doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do it. It's just giving you the opportunity so that if you were to be given that chance, then you certainly could. You certainly could do that. So it's entirely up to you. But as far as deciding which way to go, okay, sometimes people get real gung-ho and they think, oh, I can pass the CCS. That exam is not for the weak. None of these exams are for the weak. Trust me, okay? They're all very tough exams. The CPC, no matter how many times people try to say, oh, it's so easy. No, trust me, I've tutored plenty that have failed multiple times before they come to me, and they're like, Blue, I don't get it. Everybody said it was supposed to be easy. It's not easy. And especially if you're trying to learn like the little shortcuts, that's never going to help you. If you're learning or studying right now and you're using the multiple choices to kind of help you to say, oh, okay, well, yeah, this is the code, and you're sort of starting to do that process of elimination deal, and it's giving you that false sense of confidence because you think that you got a handle on it already, when in actuality, if you covered up those answers, you wouldn't be able to be anywhere near any of those answers. I recommend that you start covering up the answers. Start looking up the codes in the book. However you think that the codes should start, just start doing it. Don't be scared. That is not the time to be scared, right? That is the time right now when you're a student is to make mistakes. This is the time for you to explore the book. This is the time for you, again, to cover up those answers and see, well, can I figure out where I got to look in the index for this answer? And then find it in the tabular section, and oh yeah, it's looking at the instructional notes to see if there's any other codes that you need to pick up that may be also in that scenario. That's how you start building your skill. Not running around saying, oh yeah, I'm just doing process of elimination and that's how I picked and that's how I was able to pass. And then when you get out in the real world, you can't pass an assessment test because you were so reliant on multiple choice. The real world is not multiple choice. So that's why you have to practice now while you can, while you're a student and while you're trying to decide which certification to sit for. It's a good idea to have a good idea of which certification you want to go, because it gives you a little bit of direction. But depending on the, if you are depending on the prep books, the exam prep books to help you to study, right? And you say, well, I did really good on these exam prep books, I should be able to pass. Again, setting yourself up for failure. You never rely on those books, because those books don't have the answers in them. I've had people write to me upset and say, oh, Bleu, well, I memorized all of those answers, and guess what? None of those questions were on the test. They're not supposed to be on the test. That's how they're able to know if you're competent or not by making a prep book that has the actual questions in it. Come on, man. It's not like that. I'm just saying, let's see. Hi, Linda. Finally here to say hi. Thank you for all the support and information. Oh, you're welcome. Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Shanda. Kat says, do you think the future of coding is that we'll have to know inpatient and outpatient? Well, I mean, I've worked in the outpatient setting my whole career. I have inpatient knowledge and a good grasp of it because of the channel and Patreon. But you don't have to. It's just giving yourself more opportunity. So if you only wanted to do outpatient, you were totally fine to do that. It's up to you. Humble says, the CCS is no joke. Trust me. Yep. It'll make you sweat. Oh, when I came out of there, when I finished my exam, my CCS, I was sweating. I was sweating because, one, of course, I was so tired because it's a 4-hour test, but I was just like, I was tired. I was hungry. I was like, please just let me get my score and go, And they were like, yeah, you passed. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. And I'm like, I'm going to throw up, because it was so much adrenaline. It was so much adrenaline the day I went to go take my CCS, even though I was relaxed, but it's just the excitement of, this is it, taking the test, right? And everybody has a little bit of nerves going in. You always do. It wasn't that. I was okay with like my knowledge. I'm like, okay, bring it on. I was ready for it. But I was just like, I wanted to get the test done and I wanted to do a good job, obviously, because I know what it is. I know what it is to be a coder for all these years. And I'm like, I just got to get this done, So, but I was so excited that I have a beautiful sports car. I love my car. Okay. But I left my keys on the check-in desk. I left my keys on the check-in desk. I went to go put my stuff in the locker, completely forgot about my keys, got put into the room, got set up with the computer and sat down. And then I remembered I left my keys on the check-in desk. I could have stopped the test right then and there, but I know how critical every single minute is to being in that test. So I was like, you know what? She's insured. It's fine. If anything happens, I will just call a cab. I am totally fine. I just need to take this test right now. And I put that out of my head, even though knowing full well anything could happen to my car, right? But I had to put it out of my head because I was in that test. And so as soon as I came out of the test room, they go, oh, don't worry, we took care of your keys. I started laughing. I was saying, thank you so much, because I was nervous, but I was like, I've got to get this test done. So trust me, it was an extra relief when I got that passing score. And I was like, thank you, God. And so as soon as I left out of there, I went to go get something to eat. And then I came here and I was celebrating. But yes, that's what happens. It still worked out for me, but All right. Latoya agrees. Hi, Latoya. Hi, Ebony. Hi, Nadia. Good evening. M says, I'm going to school for my CPC. I have no knowledge of medical. Any tips to prepare me for the classes? Watch my channel. Teresa says, I would have been so nervous. That would have probably happened to me too. Yes, I was just like, of all the things for me to forget, because I don't forget my keys, right? I love my car, Why would I do that? But again, I was so excited and I just wanted to get started. And I thought that I was going to be like, okay, yeah, I've got it all under control. But I was just like anybody else, like, okay, I've got to get in, I've got to get set up, and, you know, I've got to get going. So yeah, that's what happened to me. But anyway, but yes, when it comes to your career and just starting in your career, like which credential to go with, you can't go wrong going with one of these four. Okay. Now, again, yes, there's some schools that try to push two, but you can always say no. But if it is part of your program, then obviously go ahead and take it. If it's part of the tuition and all that other good stuff, you know, if it's not and you're having to put out for it, then you need to pick one. Okay. All you need is one. And I will say this, if you pick a credential with the American Health Information Management Association, the CCS, the CCA, the CCSP, you are not required to have a membership. Although I will say that if you do get the membership, obviously you get the test at a discount. Okay. And what you would pay for a non-member for the test, you just pay a few dollars more and you would have got the membership. So basically, you know, if you do it that way, you get the membership, then you get the test at a lower cost. So, and then plus you get all the other benefits, right? So there's a lot of benefits to being a member of AHIMA. Do I recommend being a member of AHIMA? Absolutely. There's two different levels you can choose from. There's one level that's your standard $149 membership. It does include some CEUs, not enough to cover all the CEUs that you will need for one credential, which is 20. If you have the CCS, CCA, or CCSP, and you only have one, all you need is 20, okay? And that's why I recommend for brand new medical coders, your first 2 years, you only start off with one, because it's going to be a lot to be in the industry to begin with, and then let alone trying to manage two different memberships, okay? Then there's AAPC. AAPC requires you to be a member. They are a for-profit organization, and they require you to be a member. So it's $222 per year for the membership. And then for one, for the CPC, for example, it is 36 continuing education units for one credential. And they like to have all of their other accessory credentials out there, right? Which the accessory credentials, I don't know why everybody feels the need to start racking up 100 credentials before they start even in their first job. I had one fella who told me, Blue, I got 4 credentials and I don't know how I'm going to be able to keep up with all of them because my teacher told me to do that. With AAPC, and he had to report a lot more than 36 continuing education units. How was he ever going to come up with that? And then at that, some of those credentials with AAPC, like the CPMA, require you to have specific vendor CEUs that this vendor can charge you whatever it is that they want to. And you have to have those specific CEUs from them in order to maintain that, for example, CPMA. Now, I think if you are a brand new CPC-A and you don't have any experience auditing or being audited to begin with, you have no business getting a CPMA. Now, for those of you who have experience, you want to do that, by all means, you go right ahead. I'm talking to the ones that are brand new, have no clue what they're doing. They're just trying to rack up all these credentials because they think it's going to help them get a job faster. It won't. It will not. I was able to get a job with just one. The CCA. I had no medical background either. None. But I was very ambitious, still very ambitious now. Very ambitious. I did my research. I like to read. I like to study. I like to do all of those things. I am persistent. I am stubborn. All of these characteristics helped me on my journey because anybody else may have given up, but I could not. And I refused to let myself give up. I refused. So it is possible to be successful into your career with just having one certification. And again, I started off with the CCA. And 6 years in, it took me 6 years to finally have an aha moment. People I think it's sweet when I see new people that get so excited. They say, "Well, Blue, I had my aha moment." No, no, my darling. You didn't have your aha moment. You don't have it in school. Okay? Yes, you could have it at any time, but you don't typically have it in school. The aha moment happens, right? When you get out into the real world and you realize that this is not just a job. This is a career. And it means that you would do it for fun. You would do it just for the joy of it because you actually get legitimate joy from it. In 2014, that's when the aha moment happened. And I didn't even realize it. So I had gone to conference the very first time that year. It was in San Diego. By the way, the best, hands down, conference ever for AHIMA. I've been to some fun ones for AHIMA. Miami was a lot of fun. Of course, Chicago and Baltimore, a lot of fun. But nothing beats San Diego in 2014, right? When they had Casey and the Sunshine Band and they had Rob Lowe as one of the speakers. Awesome. Okay. So anyway, I go, and this is also coincidentally the year before the kickoff of 2015 when ICD-10 and CM and PCS were implemented October 1, 2015. Okay. So we are a full year ahead of this, right? And we are getting training at work on this new coding on ICD-10. And of course, everybody's kind of like worried and scared. And, we had one lady, she says, "I'm not even going to learn this. I'm going to go ahead and retire." She dropped her packet that day that we knew implementation was coming. She dropped her packet for retirement that day. She did not want to learn it. And a lot of people were scared because it was just like, okay, what's going to happen to us? And I was like, okay, well, this is just something, we're just going to have to relearn this stuff again. I was going through a program at work, but I was also simultaneously going through a program for ICD-10 at home. So I was getting double the training, right? Which was awesome for me because it helped me to understand injury coding. Trust me. Injury coding is a lot of fun, especially when you really understand it. And for the program that I was going through at work, what they weren't covering, the program that I was doing at home was filling in those holes, and vice versa. Okay, so because of that, I was able to get it and understand it a lot easier. And then I started to get excited about like all of these tests and everything that we had to test our knowledge. And I was like, ooh, this is fun. And then I went to conference. That was the very first year I had gone to conference. And so the organization didn't pay for me to go. I paid for myself. And I was like, you know what? I think it would be fun to go. And that was my first really big expense of going, right? And I was like, I think I can do this. This is going to be fun. It was a freaking blast, right? But then there's like all of the things that I learned while I was there. And then, of course, there was like the exhibit hall, which is the most fantastic part of conference too. Aside from everything that you learn and the people that you meet, the exhibit hall was way fun. And I had a whole luggage filled with stuff that I brought back for the girls. I rolled in the luggage. They were like, "Blue, what are you doing?" And I go, "Watch this." So I opened up the luggage and I was like, "Whatever y'all want." They're like, "Oh my gosh, really?" So much squealing because I was like in this room with 20 women. They were just grabbing. There was pins and bags flying everywhere, cups and all kinds of stuff. And they were like, "Oh my gosh, thank you, Blue." I mean, I had a ton of stuff, but I was like, whatever. And they were like, "That's so cool." And so I was telling them all about conference. And like, the more you get excited about something, like, it gets contagious. Everybody else got excited too. And they were like, "Oh, maybe, more of us should go to conference next year." Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm still the only one who goes, but I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine with it. But it's a lot of fun. It's a good experience. But it was in that year that I had that aha moment. Like, I was at home and I couldn't wait to get to work. And I was just like, really? I couldn't wait to get to the records. I couldn't wait to start coding. I couldn't wait to like apply what I had learned. And then in 2015, it got even more fun, especially when we had to go live with ICD-10. And I was like, okay. And ever since then, you know, if you feel like you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And ever since 2014, I have not worked, right? I do the chore things, of course, but I have a lot of fun and I enjoy what I do. And then, of course, I come here and I share it with all of you. um, let's see. Ba, 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 ba. Okay, so Ebony says, what is the biggest part of the test? Coding knowledge and skill. That is the biggest part of the test. Hello, Frank. Jay says, hi, what can I expect to pay for schooling? The average max that you should pay, $5,000. Excuse me. That's the average. But you can learn for free by going through my independent study. If you go through any of my regularly filmed shows, you'll see the independent study syllabus. You can even Google Medical Coding with Bleu independent study, and you'll see that video that pops right up. And in the description box, there's the syllabus broken down, months, the subject, the books that you need. You can check them out at the public library. You do not have to go and spend thousands of dollars. You do not have to go get a loan. You can learn on your own. Go to the public library. You can buy books cheap. You can buy, the workbooks that are a couple of years old. The ICD-10-CM and ICD-10 PCS coding handbook with the answers. Even if you're not studying PCS, you could still work on the ICD-10-CM side, right? And you can use ones from 2022, 2023, because they're going to be a lot cheaper than the current year version, right? And it's still going to have the same questions. Some of the codes may be updated because the codes change and codes update, but it's not so drastic that you're not able to figure it out. And that'll save you a few bucks. And you can even get lucky enough, if you go to the public library, you may be able to even find that book. You may be able to find the CPC study guide, because even if you are taking an AHEMA exam, you can still use a CPC study guide to study with, because the CPC study guide is all CPT coding, right? Which everybody has to know CPT. We all use the same CPT code set. So whether you are with the American Health Information Management Association or the American Academy of Professional Coders, you can certainly use that book. Now, I'm not with AAPC in any way. They do not pay me. I'm not affiliated with them. But I will still recommend that book because it's a very good book. And it's very good at breaking down to brand new people in simple terms about coding. And like I said, cover up the answers so that way you can really get proficient and you don't have to rely on looking at multiple choice. Because trust me, you prepare yourself now without having to use that multiple choice. When you do have the multiple choice in front of you, you know how fast you're going to be going through that test because you're going to already know. You're going to have that understanding already down. Like, okay, yeah, I could do this. There was a lady a few lives ago that said that she found all the books that I recommended and everything for $285. Now, where she found everything, I don't know. But she was resourceful enough to go get all the titles that I recommended, gathered up all her books, went to the Optum Coding website, and was able to order her books from there too. Now, you're going to have to call them because I don't know what they're doing with the discount on there. So if you do order the 2025 editions, make sure that you're getting the right percentage off because I don't know what they're doing with that website. So, but if you call customer service, they'll be happy to help you. And they're really good. And that is the best book you can use, okay? But you order your books through Optum, and again, you're going to get them for a good deal, a good price. You don't have to buy them all in one sitting. You can buy them one book at a time while you're studying, and it doesn't cost you anything to start. You can go to the public library, check out a workbook on medical terminology or anatomy and physiology or pathophysiology or all three. And you work through all those workbooks and you get through all of that, then you start working on the coding. Then you can start looking at videos on YouTube about HIPAA. There's a lot of free resources, a lot. Again, it doesn't cost you money to go out there and go do that. Because even people who spend $5,000 on a school, there's no guarantee that your instructor will be there to help you. A lot of times these schools will promise too, hey, yeah, we have an instructor. They'll be on call. You can email them anytime you want to. Doesn't mean you're going to get an immediate response. You know how many people I have writing me and telling me, well, Blue, I don't hear from my instructor for weeks, and they have hundreds of students. I wish I hadn't spent all this money. I wish I would have found you first. Can't go back now, but I can catch you if I can right before. So make you think. You don't have to go through a formal program to take any of the 4 main medical coding certifications. You don't. You don't even have to have experience. So that's just what I'm saying. That's my suggestion anyway. Latoya says, I was going for the CPC, changed my mind, and decided to go with CCS due to the expense of the CPC and the membership requirements. Well, there you go. But if you don't want to do inpatient, I'm telling you, you can go for the CCSP. They still ask for that. Kat says, I took the CPC yesterday and passed, and I'm already getting a ton of marketing emails. Oh, Lord. Jennifer says, congratulations. Ebony says, congratulations. Sushar, is Penn Foster still a good one? I'm not with Penn Foster. I've never been through their program, and I get mixed reviews on Penn Foster, so I cannot say either way if it's good or not good. The experience really comes back to the individual. If you are expecting somebody to be right on you and holding your hand, this field is probably not going to be for you. If you are independent studier and you could figure things out, you can do your research, you're self-sufficient, Penn Foster may be a good choice for you. Any of these programs may be a good choice for you. But you want a program, if you're going to pay, okay, you're not going to listen to me and not do the independent study, which, okay, whatever. But if you're going to pay, try not to pay more than $5,000. Okay, I still don't recommend you having to pay that much, but whatever. But anyway, don't pay more than that. Do not get a student loan. Do not get a personal loan. Do not do a firm. This one lady was telling me that a firm cut her off because she says that she has too many loans with a firm. Can't even do another one. I'm like, why are you taking loans to learn this? Why aren't you trying to learn on your own? I'm just saying. Teresa says, where is conference this year? Love the channel. Thank you so much. This year will be in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's going to be in Minnesota this year. So first time I'll be in Minnesota. But they promised the president of the Minnesota state chapter, right? They were saying, oh, it's going to be great weather and it'll be nice. It won't be so cold yet. Says the person who lives in Minnesota. But okay, I'm going to give it a chance. Just make sure that I'm all bundled up, you know. Can't be that bad, right? But it is in October. Is this for AHIMA only? No. The independent study can prepare you for either AHIMA or AAPC credentials. If you know that you're not wanting to sit for a credential that covers inpatient coding like the CCS or the CCA, you can just study on there. You can skip the ICD-10 PCS part. You can still get the Nelly book. That's the ICD-10 CM and ICD-10 PCS coding handbook with the answers. It's by Nelly Leon Chizen. That's what I call the Nelly book. Okay. Everybody calls it the Nelly book. When you get that book, right? You can flip through it, right? Skip the ICD-10 PCS questions, but only go for the ICD-10 CM questions. Because trust me, that book is comprehensive. It is awesome. It will help you. It is literally broken down so well that it can teach anybody, even people who have no medical background at all. People who have no background at all in medical can really learn from that book. So you can use that book to study. And all you have to do is have your ICD-10 CM, that's the diagnosis book, the CPT book, and the HCPCS book. Okay, and that's all you have to learn, right? And when you're practicing with the CPC study guide, right? You don't have to take the CPC. You can take the CCSP with the HEMA, right? And you can still use a CPC study guide. You can still use it to study for the CCS and the CCA as well, because they have an outpatient side on their exam too. So yeah, you can use it for either one. For either one. That was a good question. Thank you, Letty. Hi, Michelle. You're welcome, bro. Sushar says, thank you. I will go for the independent study. Awesome. So, speaking of the independent study, yours truly was mentioned in Forbes, if you haven't already heard. So Forbes did an article about learning medical coding and things like that. So they were doing their spotlight on learning medical coding, and they were talking about the YouTube channels, and I was mentioned. I was very excited and very honored. I mean, this fella had written me from another, he's with another website. And he said, hey, Blue, I just want to let you know we mentioned you in an article on our website about your YouTube channel. And he left the link. Well, I don't trust links. You send me a link, I'm not going to click on it. No. So, but I was curious, though. I was like, okay, well, if this is true, I should be able to Google it. So I Googled medical coding with Bleu. And that was the first article that popped up, was the one from Forbes. And I was like, I don't think he said he was from Forbes, but it was talking about, let's see right here. The title of it is right here. What to know about free online medical billing and coding courses, right? And it was put out February 18th, 2025. And so I'm like looking at it, right? And I started scrolling down. I was like, oh, they mentioned medical coding with Bleu. And I was like, oh, yay. So I was like, hey, Forbes, like, I'm still mind blown about that. Like, it's Forbes, And so, but they mentioned there about, looking online and things like that. And, some of the resources that are there. And of course, I've been doing videos about like resources and all this stuff. All the things that I've said, they're also saying here too, right? And free supplemental resources, YouTube. Look for YouTube channels run by practicing coders, medical coding with Bleu. And then it says post videos on YouTube, which you can learn about the field and sample course content before committing to a paid class. They're talking about like some of the other content creators on there. So, but I was like, okay, cool. Like, that's really awesome. But Forbes, that was never on my medical coding career bingo card. never to be mentioned in Forbes. But I found that article, and then I found Boy's article. So I was like, okay, that is really awesome. So Latoya, so sweet. Absolutely. Congratulations, Blue, the coding whisperer. I love that. Let's see. Linda says 15 years experience as a medical assistant, finishing coding through AAPC, about $3,500. Came out with so many more questions and answers. Blue, thank you so much. Tips and guidelines. All right. April, congratulations. Thank you. Jennifer, thank you. Teresa, thank you. Sam says, congratulations, Blue. Happy for you. Thank you so much. Yes, Jennifer, it is an honor. It's an immense honor. I was like really impressed because they didn't say anything to me. They didn't say anything to me at all. I was like, oh, I found it, So, but I was like, makes you kind of wonder, like, what else is out there, Kat says, you helped me pass my exam on the first try. Congratulations on the article. Thank you so much. And thank you, Sushar. Jay says, is it stressful? Is medical coding stressful? Well, it depends on how you manage stress. For some people, it is stressful, and the stress is brought on by them. Okay. Now here's the, what is it? The anti-Blue, your Aunt Blue talking. Okay. Where I'm going to tell you to your face, some of you are not into studying, and you know it. You want people to give you the answers. You want people to spoon feed you. That gets a lot of people really hot and mad. I always get angry letters after. You said it's a spoon feeding. I don't want that. Really? Oh, I want specific sites and titles and things. You can't do research? It's a simple Google search, sister. It's a simple Google search. And you can't find it? I'm leading you to water and you can't even drink it. I can't drink it for you, and I won't baby bird feed you it either. You know? So if you're like that and you're dependent on other people to give you the answer, that's when it becomes stressful. If you overthink, that's also stress inducing too. And how do you prevent overthinking? You prevent overthinking by doing your homework. It's going to take more than just being at work. You may have to spend some hours at home studying too. Now, before all of this wildness, that was me. And I was doing a heck of a lot more than 20 hours. I still managed to squeeze in 20 hours per week of study. And y'all don't know everything that I do. But it's important to me. It's important to me because here I am on YouTube. I got to be able to have the answers. I got to stay ahead of the game. I got to be able to know all this stuff. I got to be able to perform at work. I got to be able to help the people that I tutor. And I will say this about tutoring. If you reach out to me for tutoring, do not reach out to me because you want me to help you with a job assessment test. A job assessment test is meant to to gauge your knowledge about coding, not to gauge my knowledge. It's to gauge your knowledge. So I will not help anybody who asks me to say, oh, well, I want to book you for a tutoring session to help me with the job assessment. No, sir. I don't think so. And that's unethical. It's unethical. It's on you. Tutoring, what I do for tutoring, if you are in school and you are stuck, you are absolutely stuck. You say, Blue, I can't do no more. I can't do no more. I'm confused. I'm lost. I didn't have a really good schooling. I need help with this. Can you help me, with the scenario? Sure. Let's talk about it. I don't understand injuries. Let's talk about it. I don't understand mother baby. Good. Let's go over it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand how to do this, how to do that. Totally fine. I can help you there. Okay. If you're working in the real world and you say, Blue, I'm already working as a coder, but I keep getting hit on these audits. And the thing that's confusing to me is injuries. That's the number one I get from people who are already working. Injuries. Or I code in the ER. Or I really don't understand evaluation and management. I need your help. So that I can help with. But again, if you're just sitting here trying to tell me, oh, well, what about if I want to take a job assessment, can you walk me? No. That's what you got to do. That's how you get the job. That would be like me taking the test for you. I don't think so. And the other thing I will say about this too, if you're going to book a session with me, I don't need to spend time ahead of the appointment on the phone with you talking about your needs. That's what the appointment is for. You need to already come prepared with all of your questions so that I can answer them in the session. You're not going to get my time and take away from other people's time, okay? Because my calendar stays booked and I have people waiting to get appointments. So no, I'm not going to spend my time trying to answer all of your questions ahead of time and then, oh yeah, you don't need a session anymore? Get out of here. When I seen that, I was like, really, dude? All right, Teresa. She got started the independent study too. Yay. Connie says, oh no, I missed this live. I think your videos are awesome. You're still with us. I'm still live right now. Latoya says, go and purchase the copy. Definitely a keepsake. Oh, yes, definitely. Dr. Abini? I don't know how to say. I'm sorry. Ma'am, can I take the CCS without any coding experience being a dentist and self-study? Yes. Ro, your strong ground roots education? 100. Okay. Connie says, I watched your live last night. I will I will follow your steps. Good. Rose says, great advice. Thank you. Linda says, Blue, any tips? I'm a CPC-A starting in pediatrics. Any tips on how to connect with other coders in pediatrics? No. Rose says, can anyone put the book name into the comments? So Ro, did you not hear me when I said to go to the shows that are not live, my regular videos, like literally the ones that I posted from this week? It's literally right there. This water, I swear. So yes. But yes, it was very cool to be featured in Forbes. That's freaking awesome, man. I just it's freaking Forbes, you know. So anyway, but yes. Okay, good. I wasn't here. All right. Is this your first night with me, Ro? You never watched my shows before? Thank you, Missette. Gosh, I hope I'm not butchering people's names. Well, you butchered my name because it's BLEU. Never. Okay, so welcome. Okay, Ro. Welcome. And you'll find in my videos, in the description box of all my other videos, that there's like a very comprehensive self-study syllabus. It's all there. I stopped only having it on the independent study. It is on the independent study. You can even Google Medical Coding with Bleu independent study, and you'll see all of the stuff come up. But you can go to any of my latest videos and you'll see literally step by step the breakdown of all the steps you have to do the self-study. Should I buy the books from AHIMA after the membership, or should I wait for the 2026 books in August? So if you wait for the 2026 books in August, you won't be able to test with the 2026 books until May 1st, 2027, because that is when the 2026 ones will go into effect, right? No, wait a minute. That's wrong. Hold on. Never mind. 2026. 2025 all the way. No, I'm right. So they'll be using 2025 for AHIMA exams all the way to the end of April 2026. May 1st, 2026 is when they will start using the 2026 editions. So depending on your speed, which we're already going to be here in April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. We got 9 months. It'd be a little over a year, so I mean, you'd be just fine for independent study all the way until May 1st to use those. The 2026s, because that's when you can start using them, is May 1st. Latoya says, I literally deleted every other. Oh, thank you. Blue keeps it real and doesn't confuse you. This after 3 years of compiling free content. Hers rocks. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. I need all the help I can get. Okay, you're welcome. You're welcome, Dr. Abini? Abby? I don't know. You know. Your channel made me like the CCS more than the CPC. Okay, well, that wasn't intended, okay? That was not intended, all right? And I'm just going to say that, all right, because I don't want people to get offended, all right? That's definitely not what I set out to do, okay? I just wanted to state the facts, because a lot of times people don't know. And there's a lot there. I mean, AAPC does a fantastic job of advertising. Literally, you know, like you can watch my video and you'll see ads for AAPC everywhere. Everywhere. I have never seen one for AHIMA. So, I mean, it's just a matter of their advertising. They're well known and they're everywhere. A lot of people say, well, even here, in my hospital, mostly everybody is AAPC. There's a handful of us, and when I say a handful, that have a HEMA credentials, right? Well, no, if you count leadership, that brings up to 6. Okay, but that's it. That is it. There's no other. Everybody else is AAPC. And so when I got here, they were like, "Well, don't you want to be like us, Blue? Don't you want to get AAPC? Don't you want to get the CPC?" I was like, "No. Why would I want to get the CPC when my CCA already says I can do inpatient coding and outpatient coding?" So to me, it's just a better deal. But that's just me. I will recommend anybody's first choice of whether they want to be a HEMA or AAPC. I don't think that one association is better than the other. I just think they have different things, different philosophies, and things like that. I have known very competent coders from both associations, and I've known competent coders that have just one credential and they're with AAPC or they're with a HEMA. So it doesn't take a whole dressing of credentials in order to get anywhere and to get yourself established. Again, remember, I only started medical coding with Bleu back in 2018, and I had a CCA back then. And it wasn't until 2021, right, when I got my CCSP first, and then I got my CCS. And so I spent many years with the CCA. So, I mean, and that was fine. I established this channel. I got her off and running, and, it's grown. I have not paid for any subscribers. I don't have to do that. I just sit here and talk. I don't do any fancy editing. Although I wish I could find like a class that I could take that could help me to learn editing, because when I've asked people before who supposedly know how to edit, I don't know how to edit. Okay, whatever, then fine. The channel can stay the way that it is then, because apparently it's doing something right. Especially to be in Forbes, I'm just saying it. Saving money is good for not being broke. Yes. Can you recommend any tutors or tutor websites? Literally, Ro. You missed when I just talked about that I was a tutor? Did you miss that too? I think I will study for the CCS over the CCA, and that makes sense, doctor, since I'm a dentist, but I will self-study with your videos for 6 months. Good. Okay. You're going a little fast there, sir, but that's okay. You already have that medical background, so that's part of the thing. I will recommend for you, though, that you learn the guidelines. There's nothing better than when I see either any doctor, right, to learn coding, and especially to learn coding in a way that can help themselves and can help others. I don't know if you're still practicing or not. I don't know your deal, but I'm just saying that anything that will help physicians to understand is a good thing. And I think it's just an awesome thing to have. I didn't know, but you are busy. I take very good care of my schedule. I block my schedule as I need to. Sometimes it does get very full. Sometimes I do have to send people away. But again, if you're not trying to get an appointment next day, you're going to have a good chance of getting in, especially if you say, okay, well, I need an appointment in a week. Do you have anything in a week? Let me see what I got, but that's why I say me, or you can go to LinkedIn. You could ask for recommendations on LinkedIn. There's a ton of tutors on LinkedIn, ton of them on LinkedIn. So it's really up to you what you want to do. But that's just my thing, but that's why I try to be very careful about people wasting my time. I don't let people waste my time. So when I hear from jokers like that dude that was trying to get me to help him with his assessment test, come on, dude. No, you're not wasting my time on that. That's on you to do, not me. They need to test your skill, not my skill. So how's that going to look that I help with an assessment test for a job? You get hired, and then you're incompetent, can't do the job. No one's going to train you because they're expecting you to already know because you took an assessment test. So what happened here? Again, it's ethically wrong to do that. um, so I am studying using online ICD-10 codes. Get a book. That would really benefit you better than kind of Googling or going through one of those online things, because you're going to need to use the book when you're in the test. You cannot use an electronic code book for the test. AAPC is starting to do that, but it's not intuitive. So I don't think it's going to be intuitive. It's just going to be like, okay, one of those electronic code books. But it's better if you get more familiar with the book. Okay, just saying. Liz says, when you go to take an exam at a testing facility, can you take your books in a backpack or tote, or they will not allow bags? Do you just carry them in your arms? Yes, Liz. Yes, you just carry them in your arms. You don't have anything on you. No, you can have a wedding ring, but you cannot have any other jewelry, okay? No belt, no big barrette in your hair. They actually don't want you to have your hair up or anything like that. You have to have it like where there's nothing, okay? No earrings, no watch. You can't have nothing. You can't have a calculator. You cannot have none of that. Nothing, okay? Anything that you need will be there, plus your books. You have to have your books with you. They're going to look through your books to make sure that there's no loose pages, that there's no extra sticky notes on there. They don't want you to have your books tabbed. You cannot have excessive writing. You cannot have excessive highlighting or any of that stuff, because according to the candidate hand guide, right, you'll see that excessive writing is not allowed, okay? They say some notes are okay, but not excessive writing, because excessive writing looks like you're trying to cheat. Although there's absolutely no time for you to be perusing your notes when you're in the exam, okay? So that's why it's unnecessary to be writing all this garbage all over your book, because the books are written by doctors and scholars. They know what they're talking about. You just need to learn to use the book. As long as you learn to use the book, you're totally fine. But it's those that try to write all this stuff. When I see all this, I'm like, that would make me nervous just looking at all that. Or the ridiculous circling. You got to, in the CPT code book, oh, circle the parent code and the child code. That is the most freaking ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Why do you need to do that? Because you can't see an indentation? Really? You know? No. If you're wasting your time doing that, you're writing your book for nothing. Okay? So you can't have nothing with you but your books. Okay? No extra sweaters, no nothing. Okay? You need to be dressed comfortably, obviously. But nothing excessive, no belts either. You cannot have a belt on either. Just saying. You know, it's very, Pearson VUE is very strict, okay? And if you say, well, no, not at the Pearson VUE. Okay, well, whatever. Whatever. San says, I just had my tax return this week, and I'm excited to buy books. I'm currently a coder in Australia, moving to America. Once the visa is ready, thanks, Blue, I would do the self-study. Awesome. Maquette, you said it correctly. I'm sorry for misspelling your name. It's autocorrect. It's all right. But yeah, so, but that's pretty much what I got. So hopefully, hopefully it makes sense. Is that clear on the credentials though? Like which way you want to go? If you don't end up starting off with the CCS, if you decide you want to go ahead and start off with the CCSP instead with a HEMA, that's totally fine. You could still get a job with that, you know. If you decide to go with the CCA, because you say, well, I want to do inpatient or outpatient, and I think I want to try the CCA first. That's okay too. You know, the CCA is just a shorter exam, but it packs a punch. You can't wear a watch for time or a cell phone either. Correct. Correct. You can have nothing. Nothing at all. Nothing. They take everything. They put it in a locker. You get a locker, and they lock it up for you, and you just go in there with your books, and that's it. And there will be other people in the testing center, but they're not coders. A lot of times they're not going to be coders. Sometimes they're teachers. Sometimes they're just other professions that would have to do like a test. So sometimes their tests are going to be a lot shorter. I've been in there with people who have been in and out in like 40 minutes. And so they don't have like long for their tests. But me, I was like in there, I swear, forever. I was in there forever, but it's like 4 hours, that I was in there for the CCS. So yeah, you can take a break when you go, but that break is going to cost you time. They will not stop the clock. They will not stop the clock. So if you absolutely have to take a potty break, which there is literally no time, and you're not even thinking about a potty break when you're in this test. Literally, it's like the time is moving around you. You can't fence time, right? But time is moving around you. You are in this little thing just between you and your test, you and the computer. And you are doing your test, you're looking up these codes, and that's it. The whole world is still continuing to go around, but you are just right then and there. And so you don't really like your body just shuts off all the other things, right? Doesn't need to go to the bathroom, doesn't need to think about eating or water or anything like that. And you're just there, right? But it's when you get out that, oh yes, you will know you have not eaten because your stomach's going like, so that's the way it is. But if you absolutely have to, obviously go ahead and take a break, but just know it's going to cost you that time. And it's in 2 sections. The test is in 2 sections. There's a multiple choice section, and then there's your case studies. So you got to make sure that you have time for both. Don't be like these people who say, oh, I forgot about the second part of the test. How can you forget? But they do. They forget. So just make sure you don't forget, okay? There's going to be a little clock in the upper right, and it's going to be counting down. So you make sure that you watch that time and you get through whatever you decide. They say it's roughly 2 minutes per question. Even though they changed the amount of questions, it's still going to be roughly 2 minutes per question, a little over 2 minutes per question. And some questions are not going to take you that long. Some are going to take you a little bit longer. But it's up to you, again. And if you're studying 20 hours per week, like I tell y'all to, like I'm constantly harping on the channel, 20 hours per week, even if you got a full-time job, you can fit in 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in lunchtime, 30 minutes in the afternoon, and then 1 hour and 1 hour. You could fit that in. If it's important to you, you will do it. Okay? You don't need to study more than 3.5 hours. But if you get to 4 hours, then you can have a whole weekend to yourself, because you'll get to 20 hours in the 5 days, because it's 4 hours times 5, that's 20 hours. And then you get the Saturday and Sunday off. But if you can only do 3.5 hours, well, then you have 2.5 hours on a Saturday or a Sunday to do. And then you have the rest of the time with your family. It's possible. It's possible. Y'all got time for TikTok. Y'all got time for TikTok, Instagram, all this other good stuff. You got time for this. You got time for it. Dr. A, no, an analog watch is not allowed. This really helped me to get focused. Awesome, Ro. Alexandra says, do you think in the next year or so they will start having question with fill in the blanks or multiple choice? I've heard that's in the back burner, but I'm just curious if there's any changes. Will it happen? Are you talking about for AAPC? Because I've only heard about that for AAPC. I have not heard about that for AHEMA. There'll be a countdown clock, Teresa, on the computer screen that you see. And no, an analog watch is not allowed. San says, will the exam be on computer like an actual job setting with online records? So it's going to be on a computer. Latoya says, I drink my coffee at 3 a.m. in order to cut the beverages off. It is crucial. It was a crucial moment. I didn't break. Oh, good. Good. Alexandra says, I know someone who got very nervous, anxious, and had to take a break ended up not answering all the questions. Second attempt, she passed since she was more relaxed. Yeah, some people just get in their own head. Yeah. In the exam, can you skip a question if you're unsure and go back to it later? No, it will not let you advance. The AHIMA questions will not let you advance if you do not answer the question. You have to answer. You cannot go back. It's a one and done. Amazon doesn't even have books in India for ICD 10CM or do you know any that I can buy for the CCS? Like I said, Optum Coding. That's where you can order the books. Alexandra, yes, AAPC. I've heard that they were going to go fill in the blank, and I actually did a video about how to prepare, which is cover up the multiple choices, so that way you can start looking at practicing on your own. But I haven't heard anything since then, and no one has said that they did that they had that on their test. So I don't know. I forgot to sleep after watching your CCS videos. Now it's 7 a.m. Oh, my goodness. That's quite a bit of ways ahead of us. 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 hours. You got 10 hours. All righty. So, with that said, does anybody else have any other questions? Nothing else? Y'all have been an awesome audience. But yes, Teresa, there's going to be a countdown clock as you're taking your test. You'll be able to see how much time you have left. But again, the test, the CCS is in 2 parts. Your multiple choice and then your case studies. So you got to make sure that you have time for both, okay? When is your next video? Well, I'm supposed to film another, like a regular scheduled upload for tomorrow. But I have some other things I have to do tonight, so I don't know. I'll have something tomorrow because my time is usually 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. I don't know what time that is your time, but 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time is when I do, if I'm going to do a live or if I'm going to do a scheduled show. And I do that Monday through Thursday. Fridays I have off. And then it's back on Monday. But I have over 1,400 videos for you to watch. Alexandra says the CPC you had flag and skip and come back to the questions if you have time. Oh, well, there you go. You're welcome, Ro. Thanks for answering my questions. You're welcome. All right. Okay. Well, I guess I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. But thank you guys so much for being a great audience. And if you're studying, continue to study. Don't worry. Don't sweat the small stuff. And you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Oh, you're welcome, Alexandra. All right, guys. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'll see y'all next time. Bye. There we go.